Women at risk in sex work. Summary. The article Women at Risk of Sex Work examines the various health and safety risks that women in sex work encounter. In Australian states and territory, Victorian law allows brothels and escort agency businesses as long as licensing is filed and provided. Private sex workers are also allowed if they register. If sex workers and businesses fail to abide by these regulations, they are subject to criminal charges. A survey taken in Victoria found that the main risk factors for female prostitutes were drug use and failed condom use with private partners. A study conducted in Melbourne to examine safe sex and risk management issues. 24 women ages from 14 to 47 were selected to participate in interviews. They were asked a series of questions that pertain to their work, health, and private life. Enforcing condom use was more difficult for street workers than for brothel workers. Street workers were also more at risk to violence and assault compared to brothel workers. Another issue among sex workers was the potential risk factors in comparison to brothel workers. Street workers were more exposed to health problems such as STDs, HIV, hepatitis B and C, liver problems, kidney problems, and much more. Risk management was also identified within the women in the study. The 5 different approaches used were risk reduction in a protected environment, working with limited control in a protected environment, risk avoidance in a less protected environment, active risk management in a risky environment, and working without strategies in a risky environment. Connecting to previous readings. Centoya's story relates to women at risk in sex work as Centoya was forced into prostitution as a teenager, and the many dangers that she had faced was rape and forced drug use. One of the many dangers of rape include STDs and many other infections, which was mentioned in Women at Risk in Sex Work, as mandatory condom use is not enforced. The Tales of the Grim Sleeper relates to women at risk in sex work because the majority of victims of serial killer Lonnie David Franklin Jr. were in fact women who were involved in prostitution. Not only are diseases a danger in prostitution, but murder is also one of the dangers that women face in prostitution.
Key concepts. The interviews consisted of open-ended questions. 3 broad areas were covered during the interviews were work, health, and private life. Work refers to mode of work, street, brothel, escort, or private. How they went through their service, how they had learned to work safely, what support they received from management and other workers, how they went about using condoms and the difficulties of using condoms, worries they had about working, how they dealt with stress, and future plans. General health refers to difficulties with maintaining health such as nutrition, lifestyle factors, access to health service, sexual health history, responsibility for care of other people, support from family and friends, and relaxation management. Private life refers to issues with disclosure of sex work to friends and family, difficulties in personal relationships as a result of sex work, issues with using condoms with private partners, and problems with child care. These key concepts are important in analyzing women at risk in sex work. Discussion questions. How do women fear going to the police? Why do women fear going to the police when they are violently assaulted on the job? What lasting effects does this have on women? Women are scared to go to the police, fearing that they will be prosecuted for prostitution. These women typically are the ones who are assaulted and at risk the most because no one is punishing the offender. This means that the woman is more susceptible to being injured or have lasting psychological effects. What laws could be put in place or altered to further protect women in the sex industry in legal and street settings? How does social isolation and a lack of support drive women into sex industry? How can health education take into account the variations of personal circumstances as seen in the conclusion? Why does society look differently at those who work in sex industry rather than a different profession? Society views those in the sex industry as less of a person because this profession is considered a taboo. These women are can these women earn bad connotations, which leads to name calling, family disowning, and humiliation. Society always views high level jobs as worthy and admirable, but the sex profession as disgusting and shameful. Real world examples. In the third world countries, poverty is a big reason why women get into sex work in the first place. In third world countries, women are much more at risk for STDs and violence from customers. In the US, trans who are in sex work also do it for survival. Trans sex workers have higher number of violence against them. Personal experiences. Working at a casino, I have witnessed sex workers come in with clients, come in by themselves, and leave with different guides in an 8-hour shift. At first glance, I was very judgmental, but after the readings, I have a different perspective on sex workers. I personally never took into consideration the many reasons women go into sex work as well as the various risk factors attached to this line of work. Comparing it to this article, the casino isn't considered an undesirable activity. Therefore, sex workers are excluded from the premises. Another experience I have encountered is sex worker setting up a client to get robbed or jumped. Many of the articles refer to the dangers of sex work in a worker's point of view, and this really made me think about why clients' perspectives were not mentioned. It made me take into consideration that not only sex workers are in danger of violent incidents, but also clients.